Welcome everybody to another wonderful CHINUCH Live call-in show. We have some questions and we have people waiting to see their questions answered. So let's go. Let's do this.
Yes. Can I ask the first question?
Yeah. So there was a question that was submitted as a follow-up for one of the previous classes where we did about following through, getting children to follow through. So there we go. Perfect. Okay. So one of the questions was, how do we follow up with that? Because sometimes when we, as we spoke about, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, our previous class about this, to follow up, that when you say something and you want to make sure that it gets followed through, if they're not doing it, you help them through it. So for example, if you say, okay, let's go get in the car seat, but your baby or your toddler, well, not baby doesn't count, but if your toddler or your older kid isn't following through with the steps to get in the car seat, you very calmly, today I had a such similar situation. I was like, wow, I was thinking about this tonight. That's so funny. And my first thing I did was close my eyes. Okay, it wasn't a dangerous thing, but actually I closed my eyes and I took a deep breath. And I said, okay, I need to stay calm, because if I lose my cool, then everything I say is not going to work well. So the number one thing I would say is to make sure you stay calm. So you calmly make sure to follow through with what you said that they should be doing. So that was one of the first questions that I guess one of the first topics that we'll go into.
Yeah. So a few general points to think about, because every situation is specific, and you know, in one situation, for one kid you do it one way, another kid you do the other way. So we have to try to figure out, we have to understand the principles, and this is, I think, what we need to do. We try to get the principle, and the more we try to apply it, the more we'll understand it. The more das you can join the morning shit to understand that, the more das we'll have, and the more one really understand it, so we'll know how to apply it into what situation. So the first general thing we want to discuss is the importance of having a general positive environment. Now, I think we all know this, but it's about making conscious efforts. And just a quick part on this, that if you learn Parak Mem Aleph of Tanya, it's a very famous parak. It talks about, so the main thing it talks about, especially in the beginning, it says that the main avodah, the Ikar Sharsha, is Yira. You serve God with Yira. So I'll tell Michal about
what's Yira? Translate Yira.
Yira, fear, awe.
Like you know somebody who you respect so much, and when they walk in the room, you're like, so when I was young, Rabbi Manis Friedman came to visit, and when he walked in, I felt this like respect for him, like whoa, like starstruck. But that sense of like starstruck, that it's not like I feel like he's gonna hit me per se, whatever, but like he wasn't. But I'm saying that's what means Yira.
Yeah. So when you learn it, and so it seems very clear if you read it, it says that the Ikar V'Sharsha of serving God is with Yira. So it's not enough to do with love, with avo, but the Pachis Tzarich L'Eir Tchila Hayira Ativis. You have to arouse a natural love, a natural fear for God. So you think about this, and you think in terms of parenting, you have to have a fear of you, he has to respect, but after understanding Chassidus a little bit and learning, and Chassidus is a general very positive approach, very loving approach. So I was thinking about it, and I said to myself, it doesn't make sense that the Alter Rebbe was saying we're talking about it totally out of Yira. Meaning, it must be that the general feeling is one of love. What he's telling you is that it's not enough just to have a general love. You also have to have some respect, so to speak. And I think this is very much ties into what we're talking about. Meaning the general atmosphere at home should be a positive, loving atmosphere. Meaning spending quality time with your kids, playing, and it could be hard. And I know from my own experience, and we all have hard times and busy lives, especially the more kids you have, the busier it gets. But It's a mind change, a mindset change, and little steps. It's not big steps. Don't change our lives. One of the things I think we've learned, one of the most important things, is the life's not over if we don't do this one little thing. We just got to take it slow and steady. Little things. What can I do a little differently? Could be making sure to sit down by the dinner and speak to my kids and ask them how was the day, or I'm going to spend 5 minutes when they come home to play with them. You know,
on their terms and their age.
Yeah, whatever. They're playing Legos, they're playing dolls, they're playing tea time. Now I'm going to sit down. My phone's not going to be there, and I'll spend it. And even it could be just 5 minutes, but that quality 5-minute time, and you're genuinely interested. You know, like let's say kids, especially, they're not necessarily always clear. So a lot of times I was trying to like, yeah, and they pretend they heard, but you don't understand what the kid is saying, and you just can move on, whatever. Your mind's not there anyway. But if you spend those 5 minutes and show the kid that you're really interested, and you say, one sec, I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying this? Are you saying that? Help them try to be clear and like try to understand and show that care, that sincerity that you have with her. You'll produce a general and a genuine love in the house and that feeling. So then when it comes to having to discipline or having to be making sure the kids follow through, it will be good.
Oh, keep going.
The whole environment will be good. It's a positive environment. So therefore, when it comes to the year, so you have to have the kids have to respect you, but part of the respect is also the general environment that goes on in the house. That we could be very, unfortunately, subconsciously producing, especially when we're tired and we're not having enough time to do things, and we just feel, you know, it's like too much on our plate, and we don't have time for our kids, and we're trying to just rush them through and get them to bed or whatever. So that's like the first. It's the preface for it. First thing we should be doing before anything is trying to focus on making sure we have a positive household. So then when it comes to the 1-2 little things, we don't feel uncomfortable about speaking to them and trying to enforce whatever rule it is, because when we know that the general environment is positive, and be on ourselves won't be so hard. Like I think a lot of the challenges on ourselves. When it comes to certain situations, we'll discuss general situations. And again, it's a little difficult for specific situations, but everyone we're going to try to give, I will try to give the general idea, the principle, and hopefully you'll understand it, or you'll think about it, forgetting about it with your husband, and therefore then you'll be able to try to apply it in this situation. So one of the examples we gave was, let's say, helping the kid make a mess to pick it up, and you're forcing them to pick it up. But if it's not working for you, or the situation is not really one of those like that, so one of the things is, like, I also try in a positive way. Let's say my kids, and I think a lot of kids like I'll do, if we get in pajamas quickly, then we get to go on our shoulders. And the kids love that. And that's another positive way of spinning it. Instead of like saying you have to do it and you should be listening to me. Also, again, so that's like another way of trying to find a positive way of getting them to do it. Like, you're not trying to convince them. It's also in our mind, the way we speak. If we speak, also talk about it in the sense of like, this is not going to work, and we're going to have to be very tough with them. We're going to have to hold them down and make sure they do it properly or whatever. When your mindset is that way, so then it sort of leads to it. So if we come with a mindset that this is going to happen and it's going to be successful, and I'm going to be calm and positive, so then that's all. Then we have a much better chance of that happening. And when it comes within yourself, it's not that, like, meaning within ourselves. It's not that we're going to say, hey, it's going to be a situation that I'm going to have to deal with. I'm going to have to take them to the ground and help them out and then use my hands to do it. It's not going to be that type of situation. You're going to prevent that because your mindset's not there. Sorry about the background noise. She'll never just sleep. Sometimes when he's asleep, he gets hot or whatever, wakes up. He doesn't wake up. That's the problem. We try to speak to him. He's a little bit still asleep, awake. Yeah, so some comments. As a teacher or a babysitter, like it's cleanup time. So one of the things, let's say, this is one of the questions here that brought up is like, so how do we do this practically? Let's say cleanup time. How do you get the kid to clean up, especially when you're not your parent? So, there's a famous, they sing those songs when they come clean up, and also positive reinforcement. So let's say a kid picks up something, or you have a few kids. So one of the kids will pick up, you say, oh, look how beautiful Mandy's picking up the toy. Who else can pick up a toy so nicely? And kids will see it, and kids love that. And kids will be like, oh, and it's like, oh, beautiful. You guys are doing who's doing such a good job? And the kid sees, the kid wants that attention. Kids want attention. It could be positive attention or negative attention. And so we can try to give positive attention. So let's say when it comes to cleaning up, you're like, okay, clean up time. Let's see who can put something in the bin or whatever it is. And then the kid will look, and you look around, you see the kids normally look at you and like, oh, does that mean I get something? And like, oh, is Mandy doing something? So then the kid would like hopefully do something like, oh, Mandy, great job. Look at Mandy doing such a good job. Who else can do such a good job? But let me see. You know, oh, is Shlomi doing a good job? Ah, Shlomi, good job. And you do it that way, that will help. But that's and if it's something that you're struggling day in, day out, then maybe give yourself some time and try to avoid the situation or deal with it in a different way. Like spend some say, this is not working, so what could I do differently? Let me see if there's more questions. Yeah, there's more questions. So just finish that up. So meaning a lot of times, let's say my wife and I will notice patterns happening of things that we don't enjoy, we don't like. So we'll spend some time in a night sometime and we'll sit down and we'll discuss the situation, what we're seeing happening, and why do we think it's happening, and what we could be doing differently. You know, and that's I think a very important key. Trying to like discuss it, and even if you don't have an answer in the end, you'll have clarity of the problem. Like it says, Chatzi. Knowing the problem is half the solution, and it's exactly the same thing here. Because if you know exactly what the problem is, a lot of times we don't understand the problem. But if you can hone in on what the exact issue is, so then you can go and then you can discuss, or you can come and ask on this call-in show, and you know exactly what the question is, and you'll know how to deal with that answer. So let me see, there's more questions here. What if the positive reinforcement doesn't help? 1 second. So what if it doesn't help? So again, this is a very specific scenario that I sort of you have to be there to understand. This is the general rule that we're trying to do it positive. Also, the positive reinforcement is a general thing. It can also be on the negative. Could be meaning if you have to, if then it's not working, you could say, oh, we want to do something else, but we can't do it. But we can't do it because the room's a mess. Like the kids want to do something. Like we had one time a kid come to play in our house and he was just all over the place. And so we said to him, so he wanted to play one toy, and then he ran to grab another toy. He said, oh, 1 second, before we get the other toy, we need to clean up this toy. And I said it, we said in a way that we meant it, that it's actually gonna that you have to do that. And the kid looked at us and he saw we were serious. And so maybe he went to try to take it and said, no, we have to clean up first. Yeah, put this over there. And the kid went and did it. So you could, if you have something else, like after the cleanup time, let's say you're going to be eating or something, try to have something enjoyable. So then the kids don't have much of a choice, meaning because they'll want it. It's the one of the main principles, we've talked about this before, is the benefit has to be beneficial to do what you're meant to be doing, and non-beneficial to not do what you're not meant to be doing. Sounds a little complicated, but they have to see that doing what you're asking them to do is going to be beneficial for them. Whether immediate benefit, like not walking on the table and hitting your head, it's beneficial not to do that, or you're making that way that they'll lose out from doing it. Whereas if they don't get to clean up, they'll miss out on something, whatever it is. Trying to be positive, but if they have to be the other way, I hope that was clear. Repeating yourself 10 times says, you should never repeat yourself. Really? You say something once, and then the second, and if they're not if you see them not doing it, you shouldn't say, I already told you. Really, what you should do, and I'm not necessarily as good at this, but I used to be more strict to myself. And what would happen? I'd say it, and then the kid would do it, I'd look at them, and I wouldn't speak. I would I'll explain very clearly. You shouldn't speak. I'll just point. I'd go, and I'd wait. And it's like this Yetzer Hara, like you want to say something, but you hold back, and the kids, they see it, and they see that you're not repeating yourself, and they're and you're standing there waiting for it to happen. They realize you mean it, and they'll go. So that's, try not to repeat yourself. If you know yourself repeating things, try to avoid it.
Also, I think we covered that in other classes.
We did.
You can go You can go check out the other.
Exactly. Listen, a lot of this is could be a little bit repetitive, but it's not. It's because we have to train ourselves into this, and it took us a while to really hone this down. And it was a little repetitive. I said in the beginning of one of the early classes, I felt it was like a wave going up and down. That it would get better, and then I'd sort of slack off a little bit and go down, and then I'd notice myself back down. I have to work on myself again, and again, it's all about working on ourselves. So another question: child who runs away when you ask them to do something, or drops to the ground and suddenly has no muscle or ligament hold them up. So it's a good question. Basically, what's happening, if I understand correctly, when you ask them to do something, they run away, and or they'll just go limb, and you can't do anything about it. So they're getting you. You're stuck in the situation. So it goes back to the same principle that it shouldn't be beneficial. So,
for example, by then going limp, then they're getting away with not doing what you asked them to do. That's beneficial for them. So instead of doing that, so set them aside, drag them or whatever, pick them up, whatever it is, and put them in that place. Remember we spoke about like that, a place that, okay, if you want to do that, you can go over there, but not over here. And say, as soon as you're ready to do whatever you need to do, then you can come out.
Also, like you can, if they're not interested in, let's say it's to clean up the toys, and you say, come, let's clean up the toys, and they go act all limb. So you say, oh, let's clean up some toys, but we're gonna want to play, or we want to go eat dinner, on the yummy dinner. So then, because meaning there's a certain point where the kid gets away with it to the point that you move on and you're just giving in. So you have to just catch at that point, try to make that point close to it. So let's say after the cleaning up, we have to go bath time. It's like oh, and then let's say they relatively enjoy bath time at least. So you say, oh, we're gonna in bath time, we're gonna make bubbles in the bath. We're gonna play. We're gonna bring a new toy. We're gonna bring a toy. And the kid looks interested. Kid will be more interested to do it. And then you say, but we can't because we need to clean up. And if the kid doesn't, so then you could set up the bath. You could even play in the bath with all the noise, and the kid will hear all that fun, and the kid will be like, halashing or wanting to go do it. And you say, we have to clean up first. And the kid will realize.
Stick with it.
You have to, you
have to make sure that it's not beneficial for them to limp away, get limp and then not do anything.
Yeah. So together with that,
stick through with it.
Sticks it, trying to find something beneficial for them that will make it worth it for them to do the right thing. It could be, in the bath time example, if it's dinner, it's like, oh, yummy dinner, and also together with this, also you have to understand one of the things to think about is, are they tired? If they're tired, just cut your losses and just get them to bed. Do whatever you need to do. Don't argue them. And also, and just don't argue with it. Just try to get it going.
Which is a whole other topic, which is being aware of your children's needs, like being aware of them eating, being aware of when they're hungry, and not like, don't just give them crackers and empty. I think we discussed this before, but like really make sure that they're eating properly, that they're so that when you're dealing with these types of situations before transition, that they're doing their best. You know that they're up to their best place. They're not just tired or hangry or whatever.
Yeah, because it's going to be infinitely harder to deal with a situation you don't know what the actual issue is. And it's like a simple example with a baby. I have to say credit for Michal. She's very good at knowing those things. So when the baby's crying, she'll know what the issue is. And normally we'll be pretty clear when I'm with the baby and I don't know what's going on. It's hard because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. You look nappy. You look maybe needs to be burped, and you just get confused. And you're like, but. And the same thing with the kids. If you don't know what's going on, like today, one of the kids was having a fit, and so Michal's like, "What do I do? The kid needs to go take a nap. The kid's tired." But if we didn't realize that, we'd be like, "Wow, my kid's going crazy. What are you doing?" And then we're gonna try to be, "What do you mean? What are you crying about? Like you had a whole day to play. You start like into a whole discussion." And when you realize, you realize they're tired, they don't need a discussion, and we need to try to get them to bed ASAP, and that will also help. It's like,
Or even later in the afternoon, I realized that they were starving by the time we were trying to do homework. And I realized this is not going to go over well. So I cut homework quicker and I rushed it through a little bit. And then we were able to do dinner. And then I followed up with a few other things. But if you're aware of that, then you know which quote unquote battles to get into or not get into.
And that's one of maybe, yeah, so take my question. Another point with the, in regards to this, try to pick, especially in the beginning, the small battles. Pick the small ones that you can win. Don't go for the ones, meaning there's ones that you know you need to be having and you want to be successful at, but it's going to be hard. You have to stick to the small ones you can win. And like the ones that you know that you can win, whether it's like the example of you're going to do bath time after, or they're going to eat something they like, or they're going to go on a trip. Let's say you're going out, you're going to take them to the park. Oh, we're going to go to the park. So that one, they're sure going to listen to you. And so then you can go, come, let's clean up. Also, if you have a hard time when you're cleaning up, say, let's see if you can clean up one thing, and make it small, and give them that positive reinforcement. And if it doesn't work, therefore you try to make small, like have the small, so to speak, battles that you have, and try to make the ones that you can be successful at. Focus on those ones and try to avoid the bigger ones. That way you'll have a higher percentage of success. You'll feel more confident. They'll realize you're serious, and then you can slowly creep in the bigger ones. Let me just check if there's any. So what if the question is, what if the transition is not a fun thing? Okay, so it's a good question, meaning you have to transition to something else. So I would say it again, this is it's a process. You can't come in one day and expect them to do everything that you want. It's a process. It's sort of like we had it for bringing this Rosh Hashanah time. Like you take an achlata, we look at ourselves, where we are and where we're meant to be. So we take an achlata, what do I need to do to be over there? But that's not really shaykh. We're not holding that level. We need to take an achlata, or as Rabbi Walter said, what's one step I can take in the right direction? And it's exactly the same thing here. If it's not a good, it's not a good situation, so you have to try to deal with what you can do and what you can be successful at. And if the transition is not something good, you can still figure out a way of doing good. And a quick story, when I was at counseling camp, I had 1 year in running experience, I had these kids that were spoiled, and it was very hard for me. It was a very hard year. And so I got so frustrated at one point. I said, if you don't start behaving, we'll send you to sleep in the infirmary which is far away. And the kids, they yeah, I want to do that. I'm like, even that didn't work. And I was it was very frustrating. Then the head counselor came, and he was he knew how to run the show. And he was if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to make you sleep in the infirmary. And they all got scared. And I was hey, how did they get scared when he said it? When I said it, they wanted it. And it's sort of the person who's saying it in the way that's coming about. So even if it's not necessarily something enjoyable, we can make everything enjoyable and everything not enjoyable. And I've done, I remember we did it during Corona, to the hype, and went home and doing school. You can take simple things and make it fun. Yeah. Just your attitude, and take some time to think about it, how you can do it, and you can make transition fun. The transition, let's say it's going from one room to the next. You can say, whoever cleans up, we're going to get a piggyback ride to the next thing we're doing, Or and also kids love to help. Whoever does this cleaning, we can go help me wash the dishes.
Yes. Yes.
I've seen so many kids do things.
As long as you say it in a fun way, you make it a fun activity. One of our kids didn't like bath. So we ended up, it's you get to bring one of your toys. So he would bring one of his toys to play, or we would find different ways. I also learned that if it's a transition into something not so enjoyable, so then I don't necessarily mention it. It's not like, so in 5 hours we're gonna do that thing that you really hate. I just keep it, I keep the day as smooth and enjoyable as possible up until we get to that point where it's okay, now it's bath time, but you could play this game, or you could, make it fun, make it enjoyable, and now Baruch Hashem, I think that has changed, and now we don't have any issues with getting into bath time. 1 second, that was answered, but let's go back to we covered all of this? Yes, we did. Okay, so one of the questions was, and I think we already started talking about this, but how to prepare for transition times, because a huge part of your success during transition is how prepared you are for it. So I will give a shout out to our upcoming program Wednesday night with Rivka Caroline. Join us at 8 o'clock. She's going to speak a lot about this.
Especially for people with kids.
People with kids, for everyone. But yes, it has helped me a lot since having my kids. So please join us Wednesday night. So that said, for me, I know that if I don't have a plan for dinner or dinner done, a general plan of what the afternoon is going to look like, a general plan of even in the morning before going to school, what are the steps that I need to take in order for the kids to get ready to go to school. If I don't have that, I get caught up with a lot of, mommy, can we do this? Mommy, can we do that? Mommy, can we do this? And then I'm constantly, in the rat race, like running around, like trying to figure out what's going next. Also, then you hit situations where people are hungry, hangry, tired, grumpy, all of the above, and you don't have what to do about it.
You're on defense, not offense.
Exactly. You're on defense and not offense. So I would definitely say to be aware during the day, what are these points of transition? Whether it's bath time, whether it's preparing for dinner time, whether it's, homework, snack, whatever it is, and have them prepared. Be aware of it the night before, or, for me, I know that 3 o'clock hits and it's like boom, 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 one thing after another, pick up one kid, pick up the others, go dinner, homework, everything. So I try as much as possible that before 3 o'clock, I know what's for snack and I have it at least prepared. I know what's the plan, whether today we can go to the park or we can't. I know whether it's bath day or not bath day, so I can be aware and prepared for those things. And that way I don't get caught up in like sticky transitions when I'm trying to make dinner, they're running around wild, chasing each other or whatever. And then I'm stuck not being able to pay attention to either one of them. So being prepared for those transitions is key.
So you're meaning also what you're saying is that your transition starts before they transition.
Yes.
Meaning you've mentally prepared yourself for this next stage, and then you're like, okay, this is what we're doing next. And when the kids see that confidence within you, that you know what's going on, and like there's a specific, order and stated to this, they're a lot more coming with you.
Right. That's exactly it. So it really, really, really makes a huge difference, and also makes a huge difference for you to be aware of the highs and lows of your children's energy. When do they have the most energy, and how to use that out for the good? So for example, if I know that today we're able to go to the park, which I've done this before, what I do is I pack up snack to take it to the park. And I say to them as we're sitting there, I say, okay, quickly, let's do homework, and then you guys can go play. Because I know that right now they have energy. If they use up all their energy at the park, and then I expect them to do homework right before bedtime, it's just not going to work. Or if I know that they're hungry already because in school they, whatever, something happened. So then I know that, and I'm able to bring the snack beforehand and give them the snack before we get into homework. So again, being aware of when you're hungry, when they're tired, when you are hungry and tired, that's also a huge one. Today I noticed I'm hungry. So I'm being a lot more short fused or whatever. Like I have less patience. And I realized I had to go to the kitchen, literally stuff myself, and then come back and finish doing, whatever activities I was doing with them. So that's a huge key. There was another question, unless you have something else to say about that.
No, it's pretty good.
Okay, there's questions. What about children who need advance notice before they stop playing? Cleanup isn't fun, but if you don't warn them, they'll freak. Yes, I completely agree. I do give advance warning. So I don't surprise them. Thank you for clarifying, that person that sent in that question. Thank you for clarifying. I'm not saying surprise your kids with that negative thing, but I'm saying I know, for example, when bath time was a hard thing, I would say I would warn them by the way, today's bath day, just be aware. And then the whole rest of the day, so what I do is I say, okay, we'll do the full schedule up until, whatever, half an hour before bath. And I say, okay, just a reminder, today's bath time. You guys can keep playing. What I do is I let them play, and then I pull one at a time to come do homework with me. So I say, okay, you guys can keep playing. And when I finish doing homework with so-and-so, then we can go, then we're going to do bath. So at least if they're going to complain, it's only a complaint for half an hour or whatever.
I think it's more, it's not just that it's a small amount of complaining, is that you set them up with a positive most of the day.
Yes.
So they have that, so to speak, they're filled up with enough positivity to push themselves something that uncomfortable for them.
Yes, 100%. And it's having that general environment. So for example, I make funny games, or I say silly things. And again, you have to be careful not to make a fool out of yourself, because then they might lose respect. But you can be fun and have fun with them, and kiss them all over the place and tickle them and love them and smush them with tons of love when you are not reaching these transition points. So that way, when we reach transition points, they're already feeling happy and joyful and connected and warm and fuzzy inside, so to speak. So I try and make the general environment very positive. I give them very specific compliments on these beautiful things that they're doing. I also, one of the things I do is I compliment them in front of, I say like, oh, Abba, did you hear what, so-and-so did today in school? And I make a point to show them that we appreciate them, that we really notice and we care about every single one of them, and not just like, oh, the kids were well behaved. No, I really noticed what you did. I really noticed what your Rebbe said. I really noticed what your Mora said. And I try and make a celebration out of everything.
I think also something very important, and talks about it in a lot of stories about the Rebbeim, also in the book Samarkand, he talks about it. That was more of a side point, but it's something that like really profound. And Manasrim talks about this, and like it took me a while to realize this. And it's sort of what she's saying, that when you speak to a child about something, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, if you don't do it straight away and you do it after, it has a much more profound effect. Because if you come, let's say in something good happened in the morning with your child, and then you come by dinner time talking about it, then they feel like you've been thinking about them the whole day, and when it comes to a positive thing, it makes them feel like, whoa, my parents really think about me, and in the beginning, to be honest, I remember I tried to do it, and it was very hard. I couldn't remember. I'm like, oh, I want to say something positive about something happened. And also goes in the negative. They've done something. There's a few stories with the Friedrich Rebbe that one time there's a story about, and he ate the watermelon, and he got given a watermelon from his grandmother, I think, and a watermelon in the bath, which was like like a tub of ice cream, and so he shared it with his friends, and it says in the Sikha, it says about half an hour later, he got called in to his father's office, the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe Rashab said to him, and this is a foraying I'd love to have at a different point. He said to him, he goes, I saw you sharing with your friends a watermelon. And so he said, yeah. He goes, but I saw you didn't share with your whole heart. He said, you said, when you share with another yid, you should share with your whole heart. I'm not going to end off the story. It's for different foraying, but the point is, he didn't tell it to him straight away. Why didn't you just come to him? He saw what happened, and he should have called him over straight away. And he said, hey, I see you playing with your friends, and you're not sharing. You should share properly. Why does he wait half an hour? It's the waiting. It makes the kid realize that what is happening is heavy. It's not just. It's easy to say something straight away, but to give it time, it's a lot more profound. And especially when it's positive, to do it. And even if it's something negative that's not so good, of course, it's not something you have to deal with straight away. But if something, and the kid is a little bit older, and you say, and you sit them when they're having a good time, and you have this discussion. It's not like they don't feel so pressured and so defensive, but you have like this good communication, and it's a profound effect on them. They see that you're really thinking about them. Imagine a husband and a wife. Imagine if your husband came to you. I talked to my wife. Imagine if your husband came to you 3 days later and he said, 3 days ago, you did something so beautiful and it was amazing, and I really, really appreciate it. How good would that feel? And the kids is the same thing.
Yes, giving that time helps you really feel that person cares about you enough to remember that about you, to really focus on what you are bringing to the table, or what yeah, exactly that story. That's exactly it. It's very, very powerful. Okay. There was a question in regards to transitioning between people, different types of transition, how to transition when it's to somebody else. That's a very, very good question. Okay, so it's heavy because it also depends on the parent. Here, I think the person that's writing is because she's the teacher and she's being sent this child and she's receiving this level of transition. As a parent, I want all the parents here to know that for myself, I know that if I don't feel comfortable and confident in the teacher, no matter if I say whatever I want to say, the child gets that osmosis of fear, of distrust, or whatever. So if you are the parent dropping off and you feel like your child is having a hard time transitioning into the new class, so make sure within yourself, if you are confident in the teacher, if you're confident that your child is safe, that your child is gaining from this experience, that it's a good positive thing for them. If you feel unsure, then go back to our previous class. And I think in the previous class, we spoke about how to speak to teachers and have that type of relationship with teachers to make sure that you're confident in the teacher. But if you are the teacher receiving this, so try to do whatever it takes to have that level of communication with the parent, so that the parent can feel confident in you, and that way when they're dropping off their kid, the child isn't freaking out because somewhere deep inside the parent isn't feeling confident about it. So it's a deep concept, and I'm not sure I'm answering this particular question, but I think it's very important to know that.
I think just a general side note, that as just an example for ourselves, like the importance of understanding your kid. When I went the kids to camp, it was a different place. The kid didn't know anyone. I went with two of the older boys, and the middle one, Sharon, he was excited to go to camp. Everyone was excited. Bashkacha Pratis, we missed the bus. And so we walked there, and I came, and as I got there, I saw him look very uncomfortable, and I was like, this is going to be interesting. So Leivik he's old enough and mature enough, comfortable enough that he was good to go. And he basically went, and Shanev was didn't look comfortable. And he was meant to be in a certain class, and he's like, I don't want to go there. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I've had experiences with him before, and I know as long as he knows himself, and when he says he doesn't want, he's stubborn. It's not stubborn is not a good word, but that's like a negative connotation, but he's very set.
Yeah, he knows.
And we learned this maybe the hard way, but we learned it, and it's clear. So then we met some lady there, and she was like, my class is full, but let him look. So he looked a little more interested. The camp director looked at me, and he saw what was going on, and he said, listen, at a certain point, they're going on a trip. You're going to have to leave. Just leave now. He'll cry for a little bit and we'll get over it. And I was like, I've been in before, and I'm not, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. And I didn't know what was going to be in the end, but I knew that he wasn't comfortable. And if he wasn't comfortable, it wasn't just, he just needs to get over it, but he really wasn't comfortable, and he wouldn't be happy the whole day. And it wasn't worth it for me. And he came into the classroom, and I stayed with him. And the Mara was beautiful. She really knew what he was doing. She let him do his thing. She was nice to him. She brought a chair, and he transitioned by himself. And first of all, I got so much respect for her. And I left. I told him I'm leaving, and he had no problem, and it worked. But it comes with this knowledge of the situation. So every situation can be different. A lot of kids maybe just need to leave them. I don't know. But I knew in that situation I wasn't. And it goes back to what we said in the beginning about knowing your kids and knowing the situations.
Yes. Someone sent in a question, said, I missed the first part. Okay. Well, you can watch the recording on our YouTube channel. Maybe it's important enough to repeat. How do you get the kids to want to do what you told them to do? And how do you deal with it when they're not cooperating? Very, very good question. Okay, so for starters, there's a recording. I think must have been 3 weeks ago or so. So if you go on our YouTube channel and search the playlist for this program, so you can watch that one. But in short, you want to give a...
Yeah, I'll start with this a little bit. How to do when they're not cooperating. So there's a few aspects. I don't know the specifics of the situation, but one of the things I was thinking about, let's say we talked about it in the past, the kids sitting down to eat and spilling. So we had this whole discussion. What do? Is you make them go down and pick it up, and I'll stop wanting to do it. If a kid makes a mess and needs to clean up the mess, then they're not going to do it. That's why we don't make messes. And we had this discussion. But if you know that it's a hassle and a half to deal with that spilling, so you can also do it another way, with is prevent the situation from happening. You have to figure out how to do it. But let's say you don't wait. Let's say a kid takes a bottle and he pours himself, and they don't know how to pour well. So you don't sit there from behind, watch them and see if it's a mess and say, oh, made a mess, you got to clean it up. come there and come to be there with them so it doesn't make a mess. Try to prevent these situations to come as bad, so you don't have these intense situations. But when it comes to like a kid has to also know that you're serious. It's sort of irrelevant if they're interested in doing it. But again, like I explained before, is that it's beneficial for them to do the right thing, and they have to know that. If a kid is not like he's doing something he shouldn't be doing, and you're going to stop them from doing it, whatever means that you need to do, then they're not going to do it, and they have to learn. If they make a mess on the floor and they get forced to clean it up, and it could be that they can't go to bed until they clean it up. Let's say, it's not a good example, but they can't eat dinner until they do it, or they can't play toys until they clean it up, and then everyone goes to play, and then they're sitting there and like, I want to go play. And you say, no, you can't play. And they might fight you in the beginning because they're not used to it. But if you hold strong, you're consistent, and you say, no, it's not happening. You have to clean up. And you have to make sure it's clear what they need to do, and they can do it. And you stick with it. The first time, it takes a long time. It's hard. Yes. It's because we haven't done it before. But as you do it and consistently you do it, it goes quicker and easier, and then they just automatically don't make the mess. So in the beginning it's hard, but they, whatever it is, they have to do, and it's about being
So we did one class on boundaries and consistency. You can go watch that one. That was very important. And we did another class on how to get your kids to listen to you. Another very important, because we go through all these steps there. But to make it very short, number one is mean what you say and follow through with it. Don't just speak empty words. So that's number one. If you're going to say it, if it's going to come out of your mouth, make sure that you're going to follow through with it, because if not, they start ignoring your voice because you don't really actually mean what you're saying. The second thing is make sure to stay calm, cool, collected, and show no emotion. If you're showing emotion, it means that they can push your buttons and bug you. And then when they're bugging you, they get into your, brain and emotions and all that. And then they feel as if they're doing something, like they're accomplishing something. Number three, if you already see that it's not going to work, don't even get into it. Just retreat. If they're exhausted, they're like 2 hours past bedtime, they are starving, any of those options, then just don't even say anything. Don't open your mouth. Just don't get into it. Only get into it, preferably start by only getting into it if you know you can win. If you know you're going to, I'm going to follow through with it all the way through. Number four is make sure that your body language speaks. Don't shmully, shmalala,
say it and walk off.
Yes, so don't say it and walk off. Like, oh, go clean up, and then you walk off, or go clean up, and then you grab your phone and then get lost into the world of phone. Make sure that you're looking at them in their eyes, face to face. What you're saying, don't be angry. Again, it's not anger. We're not meant to be angry, any of that stuff. We're just meant to be calm. Now is the time to clean up. You shouldn't have made a mess, but now that we made a mess, it's hashgacha pratis, now we have to clean it up. Right? So mean it and stay there. And we listen to those classes because we have all those. Make sure that your mindset is set that this is going to happen. This is going to be followed through. If you're iffy, if your kids catch you on one of these, like, oh, should we go to the park? Should we not? Should we have this snack? Should we not? Should we have a, dinner, this dinner, not? If you're iffy, then they're going to catch through, and then they're going to mess with your decisions. They're going to ask you, mommy. This happens to me sometimes. And then the last thing is to make sure you're on the same page as your spouse. If the kids come and ask you and say, mommy, can we please go to the park today? And you say, no, we have to do homework. But then they go and ask your husband, he says, oh yeah, let's go. And then they start walking off. That's an issue. That means that what mommy says doesn't really get followed through. What Abba says or Tati says does get followed through. So make sure, that's one of the things that we say, ask mommy, or what did mommy say? We have to always make sure that what the other person said matches to what we're doing. So those are, again, there's a class, it's called How to Get Kids to Listen. We spent a whole 45 minutes or so going through each of these steps. So you can watch that and enjoy. So far I don't have any other questions here. I hope we covered as many as we could. I hope this was helpful. And
submit more questions.
yes, submit more questions. Let us know what you're dealing with at home, and we are more than happy to help you through them.
Just one more point. Like also, part of the staying calm is staying calm. It's like you're not showing that it's affecting you in any way. Like it's like what they're doing, because what they're doing is trying to get a response from you. So when you stay calm, you're showing no response. So then it's not beneficial. It's like you're trying to do something. Someone tries to poke you, and you go, "Oh!" So they get a response. But if they poke you and do anything, so they'll stop doing it after a while because it's boring. So let's go to bedtime. Like one of the points we have is going to bedtime and the kid screams. Now, if the kid's screaming and it affects and it causes a reaction from you, so then the kid's gaining from screaming. And this is anyway, if a kid screams in the streets,
you can keep.
If a kid screams in the streets, why do they do it? Because they can get a reaction. So when you're in situations at home and they start to scream, and if you don't show any reaction, and if you don't show any emotion to it, like it doesn't affect you, so they'll scream. So then they'll stop doing it after a while. And when you take care of it, again, a lot of these things, when you take care of them, like in the small situations, so then they don't get to bigger situations. And so therefore, like when it comes to screaming, going to bed, if a kid screams, okay, so it screams, and you don't show any reaction to it, so how long are they going to do it for? So maybe the first time they'll do it for 10, 15, 20 minutes. The second time, if they didn't see any reaction the first time, they'll try it again, maybe 10 minutes, and then the third time, like, this is not getting anywhere, it's just boring. And so that's a general consensus, a general idea. Well, the follow-up question.
There's a follow-up. Is there a way without having to offer consequences? Okay, so I want to discuss this for a second. Consequences.
I wanted to say something about this consequence thing, because it's not, in life, if you run on the road and the car's coming, you can call it a consequence. It's the reality of life. If you put your head on the table and you slam it down hard, you're going to hurt your head. This is not you can call it a consequence. This is just the reality of life, how life works. If we spill, we make a mess on the floor, our floor is dirty. This is, and kids.
Right. The world we live in works through cause and effect. And again, we're not saying consequence is a punishment. And we did like a lot of discussion on this in previous classes, but consequence is not a punishment. If you take a bottle of water and you spill it on the floor, so then the floor is going to have a puddle of water. That's just the cause and the effect. That's just what it is. So
the question is, who cleans it up?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. If you, as an adult, take your water bottle and you dump it on the floor, you're not waiting for someone else to come pick it up. You're mature enough to know that you're going to have to clean it up, and therefore you choose not to dump your entire water bottle on the floor, right? And water is easy. Let's say we're talking about juice here. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a cause and effect in life, and our job as parents is to raise our children to know these things, to appreciate the cause and effect of their actions. If they have an action, they have to see that the world has a reaction. So we're not using consequences as a punishment, chas v'shalom. It's just a lesson to learn that if this happens, therefore this happens, because that's how the world works. Like, as my husband was saying, if you walk, chas v'shalom, somebody walks into the street and there's a car coming, there's a cause and there's an effect. There's an action and a reaction, right? So we're not saying consequence as like a punishment. We're discussing it more as like
result.
As a result, exactly. If somebody takes an entire water bottle and pours it on the floor, the result is you're gonna have to clean it up. It's not a punishment. This is how it works. Who else is gonna clean it up?
It's important to do that, because like the example I used in that other class, I remember when we just had Leivik and we were in the courtyard, and there's another parent that came with their kid, and they were running after the kid every second. The kid was going crazy and jumping off things and doing wild things. The only reason why he was doing it was because he never saw the consequence of that action. Jumping off a chair at 2.5 years old, he never got hurt before from jumping from the chair. Why? Because his parents were jumping and grabbing him. So he's like, yeah, I can jump off the chair. It's the same thing. Kids spilling on the floor. If the kid takes whatever it is, his milk or his water, whatever it is, spilled on the floor, and someone else cleans it up, so he doesn't learn the actions. The reason why you don't do it is because you know that there's a reaction to it. And so the same thing, the kid, as according to his age, That's why a baby that spills on the floor, you don't make it clean it up. Why? Because they're too young to appreciate it. But as they get older, you want them to clean up, not because you're punishing them, it's because they should learn to stay clean, and that way, that's sort of the way of the world works, that we eat cleanly, so we stay clean. They do it, so they stay clean. But if they make the mess and they can't clean up and they're not, so what incentive is there for them to start being cleaner?
Okay, the question, I'm not sure what the question is. Certain types of things have very clear cause effect, but many things don't have natural effect following. I'm not, if you can give us an example.
Maybe we'll stop the recording, we'll just continue going.
Yeah, okay. So how about this? Yeah, and then we're gonna, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll continue going. But for anyone, so we're stopping the recording for a second, and then we're going to, or for tonight, and see you guys next week, Mitzvah Hashem.